Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Weekly CTI. This is a part two. It's my first part two because last week, super busy, didn't get a real chance to dig into the stuff before I filmed. So I just kind of went into the studio, hit record, and we started to go through our weekly threat, which was the XWorm threats that's exploiting follina. If you remember that, hopefully if you do, that's great. If you don't, you can watch that here. Haha! It's my left hand, not my right, because it's different in the camera. Anyway, so yeah, go watch that so that you can catch up to speed. We need to finish up the rest of that business. We got IOCs to get through. We got some more information around what's going on with the actual attack. So now that we're back up to speed, if you remember, it looked a little bit like this. Took this from HackerNews. XWorm Malware exploits follina vulnerability in new wave of attacks. And then we left off here at the binary file execution. Shall we pick up where we left off? I think we shall. I think it's a good idea. All right, let's see what we got here. Circling back to the C# script portion of the original PowerShell script, there are two variables which contain binary file data. Both heavily obfuscated .NET binaries. Leveraging the unlicensed version of .NET Reactor to hide the original source code. Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, there was a bunch of obfuscation that was going on. We had some PowerShell, we had some JavaScript, we had all sorts of craziness. I actually do, maybe it's over here. I think that, yeah, some of the fun stuff is kind of right there in that Hacker News article. But yeah, right here was a nice little graphical breakdown of that. So again, let's just kind of remind ourselves. Starts off with a phishing email, as things do. I mean, not that I really want a worm to happen, but when's the next worm gonna hit? When every day, that means it's gonna be a phishing email. Tell your people, don't click links. Don't look at stuff that's sent to you from outside your organization without like a really a leery eye. What is this? I don't trust you, right? What do we say now? It used to be trust but verify. Now it's never trust and always verify. And it's just never trust. Even if you like, there's not a lot of room for trust in the digital world at this point. So it's because of things like this. And it starts with a phishing email. Then we got this details for booking.docx file, which downloaded the atom.xml, which was taking advantage of the CVE 2022-3190, which is follina. PowerShell execution from there, and then that's when it kind of forked off into these two lovely things here. I believe we got through AMC bypass, disabling defender, and scheduled tasks for persistence, and now we are on to these .NET assemblies, these EXEs, regservices.exe, the XWorm v3.1, and then looking at C2 communication. That's kind of where we're parachuting in this episode. Again, if you're like, well, it seems like I missed a lot. Yes, because you did. There was a ton of stuff. It still might have taken me 2 episodes, even if I wasn't, or even if I had been prepared. But I wasn't. But I'm still making these episodes because nobody can stop me. I'm like Charles Bronson from Death Wish. I'd like to see you try and stop me. Right? That was a crazy set of films, by the way. I mean, kind of fun, though. Bloody, horrible. Like, just watch them. They're kind of entertaining. Charles Bronson is a national treasure. Let's see here. Circling back. Okay, so that's what we have. We do have these .NET binaries, which is lovely, unlicensed, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. Both binary files are injected using the regservices.exe or msbuild.exe process using in-memory execution. Don't you love that in-memory execution? Beats the mess out of all that disk writing, right? Using .NET assemblies via reflection. For reference, the $ripple variable contains the hex binary data for .exe. I guess it has a leaky tire. What is I have thoroughly enjoyed the memeage, the variable naming conventions that this threat actor has created in this malware. has been very entertaining. I mean, if I'm going to get breached, at least I can have a chuckle at it, right? Right? That's what it's all about. As long as I'm laughing, I don't cry as I get handed the banker's box full of my stuff for allowing a data breach through, what do you call that? A phishing email. Yeah. All right. So here we are. We're going down this road a little bit further here. Is this, let me open this in a new tab. See if we can't expand and enhance. Oh, we can. Excellent. So what do we got here? We got a function called Salman Khan. That's fun. They got a parameter, Sid Hartmalatra. Sid Hartmalatra. Sid Hartmalatra. I got it. That took me a minute. Someone should have bet me money. I couldn't have done it on the first try. We've got a split on what looks like. I'm not really checked out on .NET. I don't know if what's in between the single quotes is what we're splitting on, or is what's in between the single quotes parentheses what we're splitting on. So it looks like we're splitting on double periods, but it might be. I'm going to go with that. I think that the split is going to be on open close parentheses with 2 periods in the middle. So anytime the binary sees that, it says, pretend that's like a separator, right? Split at those spots. And whatever came before it is something, and then whatever comes after that is something. Right? And then it becomes like field 1 and 2. Pipes that into all sorts of craziness that I don't understand. Man, there's a question mark, open close, brackets, $_. Again, not a .NET programmer at all. For each, okay, so we've got some sort of for loop. Doom boom in Sid Hartmalatra. Convert that to int32. So they're going to basically we're going to go through whatever is in the split. So the split becomes basically an array. And then we're going to convert that, whatever's in that, to integers, 32-bit integers. Doom boom, 16. And then what's going on here? We got this bin string of craziness. Pints Ming. So there's another bin.split. So this is going to get split on zeros. And there you go. And it's going to index, it looks like it's going to index 1. Split again on exclamation points. Lots of crazy stuff going on in here. And then we've got a join. So you got pp equals join Ming split boom boom. Oh, goodness gracious. This is where I'm going to copy and paste and slap it in ChatGPT and go, what does this do? Help me out here, ChatGPT. You're supposed to be amazing. You're supposed to be like the game changer, right? Well, I got to do all the hard work. Just throw this in here. Look at me. I'm a malware analysis person. Analyst. Malware analyst. Oh, goodness. I'm a crazy man. Let's see. What else is going on here? I'm just trying to get an idea of what's going on here. Obviously, you don't, I see that this is all obfuscation stuff. I don't necessarily need to be able to, because I'm not trying to reverse this myself. I'm just kind of looking at it to understand it better, to see what are the crazy obfuscation techniques that are being used by threat actors out there. Maybe if I want to do a campaign of some ilk, create my own malware, see how well our systems do against that type of thing, I can take ideas from what I see in the wild. And that's really what this is all about. So we got some byte strings. What else is going on here? Or some byte, not strings necessarily. They're just byte objects, byte type things. Let's see here. And then there's another function, P4. We got a reflection.assembly, winda AB. I don't know what's in AB. I don't really see it. Oh, this is just like a string of something. It's winda. HK. Man, look at, okay, so we got C. We got this get type in winda. Okay. And then there's the regservices.exe, which is going into Z, which Z is C Windows Microsoft.NET /framework, and then /v4030.319 /regv services. So it's saving this reg services, not regv services, regservices.exe file in what looks like a couple of different spots, and then the MS build as well in another spot. So we got this, like, it's all hinging off of this C Windows Microsoft.NET framework path, and then they get stuck in their own like v4, v2, v3.5, so on and so forth, respectively. All right. What else do we got here? What else is going on in this crazy jamoke? All right, then we got all this Ripple business. Did I miss Ripple? I probably did somewhere. But anyway, so invoke, here's just an invoke of these things that are happening. HH, bada bing. Oh, I don't see this Ripple thing. All right. Well, there we go. Oh, it must be coming from somewhere else, because there's Ripple equals Salman Khan meme 2026, and it's just kind of pulling things from other spots. All right. So there's that. That's where they're getting the idea. So at least we know where it's getting stored, and we know by what name these things are getting stored. Obviously, there's crazy obfuscations, but again, it looks mostly just so that it can bypass AV, EDR, XDR, whatever you got. In-memory assembly execution. So that's what's going on. It's assembling all this stuff in the memory, and you're good to go. There's a good amount of obfuscation in the P4 function. However, once decoded, it's a bit easier to observe what the code is attempting to accomplish. And then this kind of popping off the side of I'm just going to reduce this. And then what I'll do is we'll pull the full screen so we can see everything there, right? And we've got a reflection assembly. Okay. And it looks like, yeah, it's just pulling the things that it needs and then executing it off, because you see this get method C invoke object, so on and so forth. And we just continue to see that. And it's going for those reg services.exe and their respective different paths that were created in that C Windows.NET yada 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 stuff. All right, based on, go back to that size, and we'll get this going on once more. Based on some of the hard code strings, this appears to be XWorm v3.1, which interestingly enough was recently cracked and published online. That's kind of funny, right? Because you got a known piece of malware, it got cracked, and now that code is available for other people to build their own malware off of, or just use. Yeah, so I don't know if they're cracking it based off of some sort of license that is put into malware, but hey, it's an as a service kind of thing, right? There is such a thing as malware as a service. So maybe this is a very popular malware as a service malware, and now it's been cracked and published. Now everybody can have fun with XWorm v3.1. Let's take a look at this SSSSSSS.exe. What's happening inside of that? I've got a piece of, like, I was eating pineapple earlier, and I've got like a piece of pineapple stuck between my teeth. It's driving me crazy. Sorry about the ASMR chewing. I got it. Goodbye. Stupid. I mean, I love pineapple. Don't get me wrong. This stuff is tasty, right? Especially when it's cold, it's juicy, it's super soft. That junk is super tasty. But yeah, it does get in between the old teeth there from time to time. All right, malware binary file analysis .exe, leakytire.exe. Since XWorm is pretty well known, we won't be deep diving into the binary analysis portion. Okay, well, that's good. I guess if you need to know more about XWorm, get on the interwebs and do the thing. I mean, I guess you can just do like a Google search for, was it XWorm? Was it 3.1? What would we look for? Like analysis? I'm guessing there is just a Windows analysis report on XWorm. It's JoeSandbox. Okay. I know JoeSandbox. JoeSandbox good. If you need a place to go and run things with malware or possibly malware, and you want to see what it does, JoeSandbox is a great way to make that happen. And it does say malicious. This is kind of cool. We're getting that whole, right? You can spin it up inside of an instance like Windows. We see a screenshot here of that happening. And we can see that it is flagging this full on as malicious. We got the sample name. So this is really cool. And then over here under this classification, if we can make that bigger, there we go. It is hitting hard on Trojan bot, adware, a bit of spyware, hard on evader, which bypasses OS protections, disables security settings, uses anti-reversing tricks. We have definitely seen all those major hits, haven't we? And of course, we see a little bit of the ransomware, because why wouldn't we? But yeah, Trojan bots, show me that. Disguises its actual functionality. Of course it does. Just so they can get that rat or bot goodness going on. We've got adware. Again, spyware, steals sensitive information such as login credentials and browser histories. So that's good. Like I said, JoeSandbox is a great resource for doing analysis and running these things, but they also obviously publish information about known malware. This isn't like all we need to know, is it? Process tree? Oh man, it does give you quite a bit. This is a good resource. I will leave that up and make sure I slap that in the description, the URL, so that you can just go straight to that. But you can also just Google it, and obviously it comes right up. No Sigma signatures. We've got some Snort signatures, so if you're worried about it, you can slap that into Snort. Great. That's good. They're right. Okay. Let's get back to the story. We've been threatening to talk about leaky tire here because it's just ridiculous. Since XWorm pretty well known, the binary file is assembled with an original file name of .exe and is hidden behind the variable meme 2026, which we saw just a moment ago. Variable is essentially a long string of hexadecimal characters, which we also saw, which when decoded make up the entire binary file. The executable is overall quite small, around 85 kilobytes, and was compiled using VS. Assume that's Visual Studio. Taking a look at the metadata in the figure below, it appears to pattern itself off of what you might find for an AVG install file, though this executable was not digitally signed. So it's, yeah, because right there, you can see that. I will hopefully make this a little bit bigger for you. If you look around this region, company name, AVG Technologies, file description, AVG installer, right? But you see internal name is .exe, but you see legal copyright is, right? What is that? 2023 AVG Technologies, but we see original file name is, so looking at meta data about files can be useful. We see that it has features like Packer and crypto. Not that that's necessarily a thing that is malware, but much malware uses Packers and crypto, right? Okay, so really cool. I'm going to close this. I don't think I need this either. Get that out of the way. All right, so very cool. We see that, and that kind of goes back to what we saw with Joe Malware, right? Or I'm sorry, JoeSandbox and Joe Malware. Now someone's going to create that. It's like, you've heard of JoeSandbox. Well, welcome to Joe Malware, where you can build your malware in a virtual environment, get it to do exactly what you want, and then, you know, foist it upon unsuspecting victims. But like I said, we saw with Evader, right, is it leans very highly into that, bypasses OS protections, applies to anti-debugging, obfuscates its behavior, right? And also in Trojan bot, right? Functionality, disguises its actual functionality. So it's trying to say AVG, but it's not AVG. It's not really, right? Lies, I tell you. How do I get this to go away? Go away, sir. I don't know. There it goes. Okay. Once we were able to deobfuscate a majority of the script, we're able to determine some basic functionality. By the way, I forgot to mention that this, again, if you didn't watch the previous episode, this is from Securonix. And if you remember, I had trouble with that word last time as well. Or if you're new to this, I have trouble with the name Securonix. But there you go. Once we were able to deobfuscate a majority of the script, we were able to determine some basic functionality. In the figure below, we see some connection parameters being defined. It establishes a connection to a remote HTTP server using a post request. You don't say. The oldest tricks are the best tricks, right? This continues to work, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Because it's going to continue to work until we do something different on how we do web requests, or if there's some maybe new security feature that comes out with making web requests that they are verified. I don't know. Anyway, that's for people smarter than this guy to handle. So make a remote HTTP server using our connection to the HTTP server using post. One of the 3 user agents chosen at random. We got Mozilla, WinNT, blah, blah, Gecko. So here's a Firefox one. Here's one for Safari. Here's another one for Safari. I guess this is the mobile version of Safari. So these are the user agent strings that they will be using to connect back to their C2. Should we go through this business? I mean, we are a technical deep dive. That's what we try to do here. All right, why not? Let's just take a minute here. Show us what you got here. Public static void begin connect. So this is all about making a connection, new socket, address family, socket type. And protocol type 6. Again, I'm guessing this is just standard network socket creation in Visual Studio, or I guess this is .NET. We got a long, we got a byte, we got a memory stream. All right, yeah, again, I'm not a .NET dev in any. So socket.o.set receive buffer size. So that's just to receive information and how big the memory allocation should be for sending. Socket o connect. So there, conversations to integer will be true. So here's where the send begins. Conversations to string info. Begin receive. So if anything coming back, we can grab that. There's a ping utility happening. What is going on here? We got some random things with a timer. I'm guessing that might be to just make it extreme, like very asynchronous. Randomizing that conversation, make it chopped up and weird. But to both the client and the server, when it comes to the C2, it all makes perfect sense. Then we've got this Lambda thing, public void Lambda 9, socket val, new socket address family. Okay, we're going back into another socket, val.connect. So the socket is called val. Val.connect means we're making connection. Here's where the post goes. So string s equals post. Here's all the posts. Here's where it defines the user agent on which it's going to use. Then it encodes it to UTF-8. And I'm guessing it needs to be a bytes type object. And there you go. Val send, bytes, 0, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then it sleeps for 2,500 milliseconds. Or maybe it's 25 seconds, or maybe that is 2,500 milliseconds. I don't know. Val.dispose. So that one, I think that's the closing of the socket, disposing of it, and then there's a catch. So this is a try catch block. Project data set project error. So if there's an error, that's where the exception. That's the catch, right? What's the catch? The catch is if this junk don't work, do this. What junk is that? Up here in this try block. If that coding amazement does not work for, I can't imagine why. Well, I guess I should put something down here to make sure that I know about it and catch the error properly. That's a very common way to like handle errors, is to do a try catch. Okay, that's cool. It's just basically a standard socket programming, sending and receiving, closing sockets out, and handling errors. All right. A unique ID is generated using the victim's processor count, username, machine name, OS version, and drive total size. That's kind of cool, right? I'm always thinking about that myself. Like if I'm building an implant, how do I give it something unique that can be sent back and forth? So they use a lot of stuff. A unique ID is generated. And that way it can kind of like, I use that kind of stuff to, if it's, once the agent or the implant makes its call back to the server, it will check in, and I need to identify it in some way, shape, or form as different from any of the other implants that might be checking into the same C2 server. So I have to generate some unique string. Sometimes you just use like something simple, like, grab something from dev random or whatever. But if I don't know how to do that in Windows, other than use something like, date down to milliseconds or other things. This says it uses a lot of different things. Processor count, username, machine name, OS version, and drive total size, or total drive size, I guess would be a better way to put that. This is used to identify the victim host from the attacker's C2 architecture. Right. From a command and control standpoint, the rat offers a large amount of attacker-initiated commands. Below is a table of the commands and a brief description of its intended functionality. So we've got rec, restart application, close, which closes application, uninstall, purges all rat files, registry keys, schedule tasks, and then exit. So they got to make a clean getaway. They've got an uninstall function. They've got an update function or a command, a module, commandlet, however you want to put it. Runs the uninstall function, decompresses the file from byte streams, opens a new memory stream. Okay. DW writes a .ps1 file from the attacker's server and execute it using the powershell.exe execution policy bypass file name ps1. So if you need to do something, it does it via a ps1 file. Then FM takes an assembly from the provided byte array and creates an instance of the assembly's entry point type and invokes it. LN downloads a file and executes it using process.start. So there's a lot of stuff in here that's interesting to me just because I'm not nearly as checked out on like the Windows API and stuff. I'm just now starting to kind of crack the hood open on that stuff or open the lid on that. So it's really interesting to see how it gets used in a real life scenario. URL open, performs HTTP GET, request to provided URL for the default browser. URL hide, same as URL open, but builds the web connection within the binary itself, hidden from the user. PC shutdown. Obviously, it runs a shutdown command. Restart, runs restart, log off, start DDoS. That's fun. Begin DDoS to the target. So apparently it's got some built-in DDoSing. So if you're using this as part of like a botnet to sell, there's a term for that. I forget the name of it. I don't really, DDoSing is something that people do, but it's not like my thing. I'm more into malware and that kind of stuff. But I should look for a good DOS attack. We should dig into that in one of these weekly CTIs. Let's see here. Start the report. This attempts to abort the existing thread. New thread, pass parameter, stop report, stops the newly created thread. Xchat, opens a socket, sends specific data to the attacker's machine. We've got ngrok. Well, hopefully we all know what ngrok is. If you don't, there's your homework. It's a useful tool. Got a plugin. Appears to check for, it says right now it's unknown, but it appears to check for the existence of plugin related data. Save the plugin, unknown again. Offline get, performs connectivity check. It's very featureful. Sends a message to the logged in user we got message box. We can throw a message at the user. Hey, by the way, I am in here. And I've seen all those things you've been doing. That actually happens, by the way. So if you have anything sensitive happening on this side of your webcam, you might want to throw something over it. Yeah. And that's why like my laptop here, not my MacBooks, they don't have it, but my Lenovo's do. I'm trying to think if anything else does. But they have little sliders built in to cover the webcam. If not, a piece of, what do you call those? These things. Post-it notes. You can use that. Cover that thing. Good OPSEC, ladies and gents. Other functionality includes clipboard monitoring, command shell, DOS capabilities, disable and enable UAC, the ability to throw a blue screen of death. I haven't heard that in a while. In addition to the functionality of rat leverage, also leverages WMI objects to pull additional data such as AV information, date and time. While the connection strings were heavily obfuscated within the executable, dynamic analysis provided a connection with the following information. So there are some great IOCs right there, even though we haven't technically gotten into IOCs quite yet. But TLDR, if you need those right now, go ahead and grab that stuff and start filtering as you do. Attribution. Who's doing this? Who the bad person out there making my life a horrible? Why you do this to me? The attack methodology is similar to that of TA558, where phishing emails were delivered targeting the hospitality industry. TA558 also typically uses a wide range of C2 campaign artifacts and payloads that are similar but not positively in line with what we witnessed through Meme4chan campaign. Based on the English meme theme code and 4chan references, it's likely that some malicious act or threat actor originates from a group of English-speaking origins, such as UK or US. Some of the malicious attack activity appears to be targeting victims in Germany. Additional sample analysis. In addition to the attack chain above, beginning with details for booking.docx and Securonix threat research team also identified other connected samples, including, and here's a bunch of stuff. I think this is kind of like, is it over-scrolling weirdly? Yeah. So let's kind of get back to the top here. I want it to look as good as it can. I know it can make it smaller, but, and now I've realized that I've been without being on the screen for quite some time. Oh, well, what are you going to do? I forget these things sometimes. See, what happens is I've got my software over here for OBS, right, to record what's going on here. And if you don't then come back in here and click, when I start moving this, it starts sifting through my scenes that I have available. A little behind the scenes fun for you good folks. All right, I need to put a confidence monitor like out here that has like the program feed, so I know exactly what's happening. It's right in front of me, but that costs some money. And yeah, money I don't actually have at this moment in time, but I will start saving because that's something apparent. I keep doing it, so it's a problem that needs to be solved. Anyway, more IOC stuff, artifacts, conclusion, which is perfect because we're right at the 31-minute mark. Meme4chan campaign provides us with some interesting insights, to say the least. Their phishing emails rarely use Microsoft Office documents since, or though phishing emails rarely use them, Microsoft made this, they stopped using them. That's why. Macros. Talking about macros. Disabled by default, so you don't see this a lot. But people still will enable macros, so you never know. Sorry, right? So the whole idea. You start just casting nets out, and some things hit and some things don't. You know, you're glad to get what you get. It's likely that since several C2 domains are still active, that this campaign is ongoing. Also, given the fact that XWorm 3v1 or v3.1 was recently cracked and released, it's likely that activity surrounding this particular strain will only increase because, right, it's been made known to everyone. Recommended mitigations. This is the good stuff here. This is where you get your pad and paper out, take notes, because this is what you need to know. Avoid opening attachments. You don't say. There's a new one for us, especially from those that are unexpected or from outside the organization. Why do we have to? It's like saying, don't steal, or don't. I don't know. Don't set your own house on fire. It's kind of implied. I shouldn't have to tell you that, but yet here we are, 2023. These things have been around for a hot minute. Do not open attachments, especially from those that are unexpected or outside of your organization. Be extra vigilant with Microsoft document files, even if there are no macros present, because you never know, right? Implement an application whitelisting policy to restrict the execution of unknown binaries. That is a beautiful and smart idea. Deploy additional process level logging, such as sysmon and PowerShell logging for additional log. This is all standard, like CompTIA level 101 stuff, right? Something you would learn in like Security Plus or CISA Plus, is that these are the things you should be doing. It doesn't necessarily mean you know how to do that. Now that's kind of your job, right? Get out there, figure out, how do I best implement something like application whitelisting policies? It's probably going to be through GPO, and then deploying additional process level logging such as sysmon and PowerShell logging. Cool. How do I enable that PowerShell logging? And then how do I make sure that I get a good copy of that somewhere that can be untouched by an attacker because it's sent to a remote site unmolested? That's the whole idea. Monitor the uses of potential malicious file hosting websites such as Mediafire and user files, right? So there are all those things out there, those two, as well as like things like Pastebin. And the new one that we talked about before, was it run.sh or something like that? It's being used, right? Is it run.sh? Run.sh. Is that this? Is it? No, it's a park domain. What is the name of that stinking thing? It's a new one. anyway, it's a great place to like store stuff. Man, I wish I could remember it off the top. I don't know why I'm blanking out on that. If I remember, I'll put it in the description down below. Securonix customers can also scan endpoints using their speeder hunting queries. Below, we've got some MITRE attack matrix going on here. So initial access, so that's getting that T1566 phishing and spear phishing attachments. We got execution, and definitely go through these. This is gonna be the gold for you as far as like how this looks and descriptions and understanding of these different tactics, techniques, and procedures, TTPs, that we need to be aware of. Defense evasions, persistence. So now you've got a nice condensed, need to know kind of roadmap to get through all these TTPs and figure out and understand every single one of them. There's the file hashes. So here's IOC time, right? All a bunch of SHA-256 IOC file hashes. There's the names of these documents. Obviously, some of them are not easily like human memorizable unless you're some like savant. So us humans will probably just rely on copy and pasting this into whatever things we're doing, unless it's something like this, like the SSSS.exe and bin.dll. Maybe this string of numbers you could possibly memorize. Here's some examples of relevant Securonix detection policies. So if you need to see those, you can check those out. Relevant spotter queries. Man, they are giving us a veritable cornucopia of great information, mitigation stuff, things that we can actually tangibly stick sink our teeth into and utilize in our defenses. So we've got these spotter queries. So grab those if you need them or if you use that type of functionality. And some references. Anything else? That looks like to be the end of it. Woohoo! Boy, XWorm. Man, lots going on inside the old XWorm. And I guess, like they say, we're probably going to see more of XWorm campaigns because of the correct software that's out there. So be safe out there, ladies and gentlemen. Do your due diligence. If you're in these regions, you can see where they've been targeting, but you can start to already build the defenses because we have good information thanks to the good folks at Securonix, as well as JoeSandbox, and so on and so forth, right? So grab all that stuff, build better fences, defend yourself, because guess what? We are in a live fire range, ladies and gentlemen. That is where we live. All right, we are at the end of this episode. Thank you for watching. Remember, if you find some quality, some value out of these episodes, you enjoy them, do me the favor, find the like and subscribe, hit that good stuff down there. You want to know when we're going at this thing, make sure you ring that old notification bell. And then there's a buy me a coffee link. I think you can give me like as little as $1. And it's very much appreciated when that happens. I thank you, because then I'll take that $1, and maybe if 10 of you get me $1, and I can then buy that confidence monitor, and we no longer watch me fumble around with stupid not knowing what screen I'm on. I would appreciate it. Well, thanks everyone. We'll see you next time. Until then, stay safe.